77, and today is going to be absolutely fascinating. So normally I go through all the events, what news articles from, I triangulate from different types of articles, Ukrainian and British and American and even Russian, just trying to understand what's going on. Here I want to narrow down to a small slice and just focus on what's happened in Crimea in the last few days and the naval war in general. I'm going to open your eyes to what has actually happened in the Black Sea. Just stay with me here. Okay, so first thing I want to start with is this: that there's explosions in Russian occupied Crimea region again. At least 4 explosions were reported in the Russian occupied Ukrainian region of Crimea overnight near Belbek military airport outside the port city of Sevastopol. Mikhail Rozavetsek wrote on Telegram late on August 18th that anti-aircraft defenses had shot down a Ukrainian drone. Okay, so maybe a drone has been more responsible for this, or we think it's special forces that have done some of these other things, but hold on, stay with me. Part of that question is going to be answered in just a little bit before I get to what's going on in the Black Sea. A Russian official in the Crimean city of Kerch said that the air defenses there had been activated. That's where the bridge connecting Russia to Crimea is. So that's the first part. Now, the second part is Crimea explosions knocked out over half of the Russian Black Sea jets. Now, this is what's happened not last night or today, but what has happened over the last few weeks, right? More than half of the Russians' naval aviation combat jets from the Black Sea were knocked out in a series of explosions. Now, if you go to Reuters talks about the same thing. You see the air base and the explosions or the what's left. Now, it's not so much about the military hardware that is no longer on the ground, but this line here is really what they're going for. It's a significant psychological effect on Russian leadership. Now, let's go to the next article. Putin sacks commander of the Black Sea Fleet after explosions in Crimea. Now, I saw this yesterday and I thought, that's really interesting. Why? I mean, it seems like overkill to sack the commander of the Black Sea Fleet after this. Now, there was already a naval admiral who was sacked about a month ago, so things just have not been going well until I found this article from Forbes that laid it out beautifully, everything that was going on. And I just want you to understand this, okay? Russian Navy crews are under orders to avoid the Ukrainian coast. Like, that's a really strange starting place, right? But watch this. I'm going to unpack this. And this guy, the author of this, David Axe, you are the man writing this article and laying it out like you did. Okay. In keeping 20 miles or so from Crimea, the ships can stay under the protective umbrella of ground-based air defenses. Wait a minute. You're the Russian fleet. You outnumber almost completely the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians had one ship when this started, and they scuttled it. Okay? So that's the comparison. Okay? But in keeping 20 miles or so, they can keep away from sea-hugging anti-ship missiles. Okay, now the Black Sea with 40 or so major warships. So Russia had 40-1 advantage when they started this thing. The Ukrainians scuttled their only ship, and it's 40-0, and the Russians are hiding. Watch this. The Black Sea, with 40 or so major ships, outgunned the tiny Ukrainian Navy, which sailed into the wider war with just one lightly armored vessel. The Russians had the advantage in the air, too. Several squadrons of Russian Navy Su-24, Su-25 bombers, and Su-20 air bases. This was just a recent event, right? Okay, so the naval balance of power was so lopsided that Ukrainian commanders didn't even bother fighting in sea. And in the early hours of the initial Russian bombardment on February 23rd, they ordered the crew of their only ship to scuttle the frigate. That is, they sunk their only ship. In the first 2 months, Russians dominated the sea. The Black Sea fleet was poised to attempt an amphibious landing around Odessa. What this would have meant would have been that if they captured Odessa, they could sweep over to the east and cut off Ukraine completely from the Black Sea. Russia would have had all of its mineral rights, all the gas in the Black Sea. They would have had the coast connected all the way to Moldova. It would have been really, really bad. The tide began to turn on March 23rd when a Ukrainian Tachka ballistic missile struck the Black Sea Fleet landing ship Sartov. The explosion sank Sartov, damaging at least one other landing ship. So they killed one of their own ships, their only ship, and then they sunk one of the Russian Navy's ship and damaged another. On April 13th, the Ukrainian Navy anti-ship battery put 2 Neptune missiles into the side of the Russian cruiser Moskva. 1-2. And they have no navy, so with 0 ships, it's 1-2. In a single strike, the Ukrainians deprived the Black Sea fleet of its main air defenses with the ship with her S-300 long-range surface-to-air missiles, so there's no protection there. Okay. Harpoon hit and sank the support ship Velasquez Barbarov while she made a supply run on Snake Island on May 12th. So it's 1-3, and Ukraine has sunk all 4 of these ships, right? I mean, wait a minute. You're outnumbered 40-0, and you're getting your ships sunk. What's going on? Unable to... Now, here's the real amazing thing. They're unable, because of where they are, they have to go through Turkey in the Bosphorus Strait in order to get into the Black Sea, and Turkey's not letting anything else through. Unable to replace the Black Sea fleet's losses as long as Turkey controlled the Bosphorus Strait, joining the Black Sea to the Mediterranean, Russian commanders are focused on protecting what remains of the Black Sea fleet. This is why they're nervous and keeping them out away from the coast. Then Crimea comes into the picture. On August 9th, struck Saki Air Base, home of the Black Sea Fleet's 43rd Independent Naval Attack Aviation Regiment. Burned to the ground as many as 8 Su-27 fighters. We knew that, but I didn't know this. 4 Su-30s, 5 Su-24s, and 6 M8 helicopters. So half of the fleet aviation has been destroyed, according to a Russian source. A week later, an explosive-laden Ukrainian suicide drone blew up an ammunition dump. That's another way to attack. Remember, we had the little drone attack on the main headquarters? That's not even talked about here. And then after that, after the Harvitsky attack, coincided with separate strikes on other Russian facilities in Crimea, including a Ukrainian commando raid on a Russian ammo stash. So now the Black Sea has been like... Wow, what happened there? And now Crimea is as well. They then peeled away the fleet's island and gas platform outposts. So they retook Snake Island, and then they also chased the Russians off of these gas platforms where they were able to set up some kind of missiles or radar or whatever else. The only Black Sea fleet assets the Ukrainians haven't touched are submarines. Like, you have no navy, and you've been able to essentially neutralize the entire Russian navy in the Black Sea. It's fair to say, after 6 months of fighting, that Ukraine has neutered the Russian fleet and won the battle for the Western Black Sea, and it's done so without a fleet of its own. It's a big deal, and it really is. Okay, let me look at one more thing, and then I'll let you go. And that's this. This is the UK Ministry of Defense. This was about 3 days ago. The Black Sea Fleet, let me go up. The surface vessels of the Russian Black Sea Fleet continue to pursue an extremely defensive posture, with patrols generally limited to waters within the sight of Crimean coast. I mean, there's not even a Ukrainian navy, and that's what's going on. The Black Sea Fleet continues to use long-range cruise missiles to support the ground offensive, but it's currently struggling to exercise effective sea control. The amphibious threat to Odessa has now been largely neutralized. That's freaking amazing, considering you only had one ship to their 40 ships. You sunk your own ship, and then with 0 ships, you're chasing the Russians around in the water. Okay, so that's all I want to cover today on this. If you are still listening to me, please subscribe. I do these updates daily. And let me add one more thing. About a week ago, there was a Pentagon official who said that on a scale of 1 to 10, the Ukrainian military is a 12. Now you know why. I mean, this is happening on the ground too. They're being very creative in the way that they're contesting the Russian advances, particularly in Donbass, where they're taking heavy losses to gain just inches of ground daily. The Russians are taking heavy losses to gain just very little ground. But the Ukrainian military, they are just fighting like it's really amazing. All right, see you tomorrow. Thanks for your time.